Next is to consider the award of a meter replacement project contract, and we have Director Noah Mahalski here today from our DPW.
Good evening again. Okay, it's on. Don't have a problem being heard usually, so. I want to give you some background on the program and kind of the structure of it before I begin in earnest. So it's important to know that the meter program involves a few different facets of operations, and that kind of comes from the makeup of the meter, the line and the meter and the succession of that coming into the building. So there's a service line on the back end of the stop box that feeds the water into the people's homes. In this state, because of weather, the meters are inside. I wish we were in a warmer climate where we could put them outside by the curb, but so all our meters are inside. So you have that meter in the line, and then on down the line, that meter talks to a sending unit that sends out the signal to then get the meter reading, okay? And right now, we're in a radio read environment here in Bloomfield Township, where we can drive by on the street and collect the reads. What we want to do is move towards, for monthly billing and usage-based billing and all those things we talked about as far as rates, we want to move to getting more robust data through the use of a cellular network and a cellular endpoint instead of that radio read. So additionally, this project kind of is going to involve some state regulations where we need to get into the home as well to do a test on the service line material coming into the home. We would have had to do this anyway, so we're coupling these programs together for economy of scale. The hardest part will be getting into the homes of these people, so if we can do that once, satisfy multiple regulations, that's how we're going to handle the program. So. As far as meter programs, industry standards are so our current meter stock is a nutating disc stock where there's a device that is moved by the water, and then that measures the flow, right? But as any moving parts wear out over time, so meters become slower, and so we don't get proper accounting for the water used on the system. So industry standards tell us from 15 years of age on a meter to 20 years of age, we would make the money back on replacing that meter by replacing it at 15 years. Another way of saying that, if we waited till 20 years, over that 5-year period, we would have lost the cost to replace the meter by not measuring the water through the system. Okay, so that's kind of a trigger point. It's not that simple. 15 years for a low user, you won't have the wear on the meter, so you also take into account 1 million gallons usage. Make sure you're getting usage through the meter, so it's kind of a double-pronged standard that we go by here. Our stock in particular, we have 18,000 meters. That includes some secondary meters, commercial meters, that type of thing. 52% of those are over 15 years or older in our stock right now. So what does that mean? We've got a big backlog. We have not had a meter replacement program in many years, and so we have a glut of meters that it's time for them to be replaced. Talking about the multi-year kind of format of this project, in the bid tab, we bid this out by unit costs, and then in the bid tab, we extrapolated that over the multi-year program that, by our 18,000 meters. And so, if we chose to do this in 1 year, you see the big number there, it's like $7.9 million or whatever it is. We have to parcel this out year to year. Many reasons why. A $7-8 million hit to the budget, not prudent planning. You don't want to replace meters that don't need it yet, right? So you don't want to do this in a 1 year. You want to do this pragmatically over, in reality, you want to split it into a 15-year program, so you're only replacing a minimal amount each year. And we'll get there as we kind of develop the program forward. Additionally, another concern at the front end is the lead service line delineation. That project, we're under a deadline from the state of Michigan. We're 4 years ahead of it, but we want to get those all done, get our report into them, and we're really looking and doing a random survey of our population to see if there are any lead lines that we are not aware of that are out there. Additionally, the the push for monthly billing is critical. So we're going to start attacking the 15-year and older meters, but we're also going to start installing the cellular endpoints in a quicker fashion to allow us to start getting the data back, to start looking at usage-based billing, to start looking at leak detection for residents, to give residents the ability to go onto a customer portal and see their data real time. Those things, we want to push that and accelerate the cellular end of things. So that's kind of the 3 prongs of the program that we got going. Really, the cellular endpoint, we've had discussion in the past about building towers in the township. It was estimated at one point that anywhere from 19 to 32 towers would be required within Bloomfield Township due to topography. That's why we're going with the cellular option in this case. And in fact, the low bidder in the project, who we're recommending, has a very much more robust system than the second lowest bidder. And basically their product's been proven in the market. So generally, the program's going to focus on the lead service lines first, old meters first, and then switching out as many of the cellular endpoints as possible under the budget amount. This year in our budget, we have $300,000. We're planning on pushing that up till the end. I mean, we're already in October at this point. We've got to meet, get contracts signed, so we're planning on basically kicking off this program seamlessly into next year's as well. So a budget ask and the rate, when we're setting the rates, we'll kind of develop the program for next year and tell us how much we need. We're going to have the contractor over here, Ryan is in the audience. We're going to have him take a look at what we're going to need in future years to, again, hone this program into a multi-year program that's flattened out like it should be. So that's why there's a not to exceed price in there. We don't exactly know. I can't tell you how much water people are going to use, how many endpoints we can actually get in the homes and that right now. So we're going to just push it up to that not to exceed amount of $300,000. Then we'll develop the program and get in the rates a budget amount for each future year of the program. So that is it in a nutshell. Let me know if you have any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
I just had a question with regard to if we wanted to do monthly billing, every user in the township would have to have this new meter?
No, there's a couple different methods. We could throw manpower at it.
Okay.
And just go use our current system, go achieve the reads. We've had a posting on the township website for a meter reader to perform. Our plan was, beginning of this fiscal year, hire 2 to 3 meter readers and achieve that. Nobody's applied in the last 6 months. It's a pseudo part-time position, so the feeling is we're going to start with our highest users, start switching out the endpoints. So theoretically, 2 to 3 years, we should be able to get the data we need. Start collecting that data. We're going to need some elapsed time of that data to give the rate makers enough math and statistics to go on. But that's save the manpower, save building a bunch of structures, that type of stuff. This is the quickest way to get us there, and we are going to accelerate that function of the program. Once we run out of old meters to change out, or basically in conjunction with that change out, we're going to be putting in these cellular, endpoints as well. So.
And you'd agree that these new cellular meters would help us also as far as determining usage, because they're just a lot more accurate.
Yeah, so they ping a lot. The data flow is much more robust with them than what we're getting with our current system. Plus, it'll interface with the portal that'll allow the resident to take a look at their usage, and the types of meters with the devices that we're going to are going to have they can tell if there's a continuous slow usage of water, which indicates a leak. They can tell you over a given time period, if we set parameters, if they've exceeded that. And it'll tell you right away if there's a leak. So instead of waiting 3 months for our billing data to come in, then we start making calls to the resident that, hey, there's something going on here. We'll find that out nearly instantaneously, like next day or whenever the parameters kind of tip the scale and let us know. Additionally, in the future, we'll be able to utilize the portal to send out like boil water notices, that type of stuff. So there's a regulatory side to it. I don't think the DEQ would quite take it right now, but I think you're probably reaching as many people that are reading a newspaper, you know. So the kick will be to get people to sign on to that portal for their own good and some sort of education effort to make that happen, so.
I just had a question. It seems pretty obvious that it'll be all automatic, electronic. The cellular information will come in, so that will take away the need for the drive-by read. So that
Correct.
should save us
Yes.
some manpower, some money in that respect.
Yep, basically, we'd redeploy that one person who has to take a couple days out of the month at this point, because even though we do quarterly billing, we're rotating, so we're always billing each month. So they'll be reassigned to like our televising and videoing, or videoing and cleaning, kind of our other core tasks that the state has some, you know, some orders out for us on, so. And these, importantly, this project was ran completely in-house before, and it took years and years and years. I'm still cleaning up skeletons from those closets from that time where they couldn't get in, people refused to let people into the house. You know, I have the ability to shut off water in those cases. So I've been trying, you know, we can't like start another program without getting everybody else into line from the last one, right? And I expect high compliance rate with this because, you know, I'm not out there, I don't want to waste the effort on this. So I will use the threat of shutting off water if I need to, so.
But that's a last.
Yeah, that's, I mean,
Just to make sure we know.
oh, you
that's
get into a
last
life,
ditch.
health, and safety
Yeah,
issue at
right.
that point. Our ordinances are written that way just for that reason. You know, you become insolvent if you don't apply those standards.
But you
So-
have touched people many times before you've ever gotten
Oh,
to
yeah.
that. Just so you guys know, like, he sends out letters, they make phone calls, they knock on doors, so just so everyone knows.
Yeah, you're
that's a
talking
last-ditch
years
effort,
of
yeah.
contacts and multiple, honestly, it's several contacts on their end before it even gets to a
Right.
letter from me that starts to get a little more like, we need to get into your home, you know, and then there's 3 or 4 from me with, and again, if we got people that are making contacts, I can't because I'm in California or whatever during this time period, we're completely good with that. It's, you know, it's multiple years of non-contact where we get to that level, so.
No, so are these meters becoming more the standard in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, I'm aware, you know, there's a few, it depends on your topography and that type of stuff and what you have in place, right? There's some communities out there, Wayne County, northern Wayne County communities, they only need 2 towers to serve their entire population. That's because they're flat as a pancake, right? Not up here, not our situation, right? So then you start to look at numbers of towers. Do you want to go that way? My feeling, I laid this out to the board last year, was that easement cost to basically the theory is if Verizon is paid to do this activity because it's their livelihood, I think they can do it better than Bloomfield Township on the scale as far as managing towers and a cellular network, that type of stuff, so.
You also have the look of those towers, too.
You're right.
I mean, when you think about 19 towers, it would change
be,
the topography for
I don't
sure.
think it would work.
Yeah, costly and unattractive.
Right, I mean, and we would try to get on poles that are already existing, which you can make agreements with MDOT and RCOC, but we would have to build quite a few of them, you know, so it's definitely the way to go.
I have a few questions.
Yep.
Okay, sorry. I just want to go over, I make sure I understand the terminology. So an endpoint is what? Endpoint is the cellular connection device that sits directly with the meter?
It's the talker, so it speaks the data to the system and back to us, and it's on the outside of the home.
And then how does it connect to the meter?
There's a wire that's already in place for
Okay.
the current existing meter, that it's a 3-wire system that basically will utilize that existing wire if it's okay, and connect the cellular. So when we ramp up the cellular endpoints, they won't even have to go into the house. We'll just change the endpoint out on the outside of the home. It's the R900s that our radio reads right now. Another problem with doing this program internally is our employees listened to people and tried to make accommodations when they didn't want the reader on the outside of the home. This contractor will be less apt to do that because they know more tricks to get it on the outside of the home. They know kind of the game, and we got to force them to be on the outside. That being said, they should work better, I've been told, than even the radio read on the inside of the house, but that's how it works. So the meter talks to the endpoint, which sends the data to us.
Okay, so for somebody who got a meter, let's say 2 years ago, we don't need to change out their meter, we just need to change out their endpoint?
Correct.
Okay, so on your bid tab sheet here, when it says approximate cost for a total meter change out, $8 million, $9 million, that's if we swapped out every meter that we have.
Correct. We wanted to give you an idea of, okay, it's only a few dollars difference in the meter cost, so we wanted to give you an idea of what this meant over the whole program.
Okay, so are the meters that are going to get installed proprietary to the people that install them?
They are a product that's covered by copyright, but they all speak the same language.
So let's say in 2 years, SLC meter no longer exists. We could go to Ferguson or somebody else, and they could put in a meter that may not be the exact same meter, but will be compatible.
Yes, and in fact, these endpoints that we're going to install are going to be talking to Neptune Ferguson meters.
Okay, so are we going to rebid this program every year to make sure we're getting the best prices? Is this a multi-year contract?
It'll be, basically, we're going to redevelop the program, because we don't know year 5 what customer A's usage is going to be throughout the 5 years of the program. So I can't tell you today what meters I'm going to be taking out in year 5 of the program. So we have to go back, use the expertise of SLC to design the program as an ongoing relationship. That's why we did the unit cost of the meters with the price increases, much like we do for the solid waste contract, which is a longer, one of these, like, you can't switch a solid waste contractor every single year. You can't switch a meter replacement company every single year because you're never gonna end, right? And everybody's always gonna be chasing their tail on the last program. So as we go through, we're gonna develop the next year's program. That'll be part of the rate discussion, and then I'll come to the board with, again, a not to exceed dollar amount that'll be from the rates. So.
But at that point, we're not going to rebid it.
Correct.
We're just going to go with this vendor
Right.
that you're asking for, and then, say 300,000 divided by these meters, we can fix, whatever it is.
Right, and look at, okay.
800 meters or whatever.
Next year, so we're gonna, one thing internally, policy-wise, we're gonna focus on commercial accounts in the first year, right? If we wanna, and we wanna go by districts, so there's 5 districts, so that we're not billing in District 1 2 different ways, right? So if I go to District 4, which is our commercial accounts, and I can get them all done in a year, that'll drive my budget amount for that year.
Okay.
Right, and make things seem, and in fact, commercial accounts are already billed monthly, so they're our first target to do a little bit of a trial and see how the data looks.
Right, so, to the residents that maybe saw this on the agenda and said, oh my God, they're changing out meters again, we're not, if somebody got a meter in the last 5 years, they're not getting a new meter.
Correct, I'm not throwing good money after bad.
Right.
And that's the importance
We're
of
just going to go in and change their endpoint
Correct.
when it comes
And
time.
in most cases, right outside, not even go in.
Right, and we don't even need to bother them for that.
Correct, and then we'll start collecting that data. They'll, then the portal will be kind of run out. That'll be the benefit to the residents and the leak detection, all those things, that'll all kind of be.
And the other thing I'd like confirmation of, and I am fairly certain I know the answer to this, obviously, is that no one's getting billed for these meters. This is going to be billed as part of the rates, part of our budget. Homeowners who get their meters swapped out, we're not going to show up with a bill.
Correct. This funding is included as part of the rate in any given year. And the 300,000 from this year is included already in this year's rates.
Okay.
So indirectly, the ratepayers are paying for it, certainly.
Right, and we have to do those lead line inspections anyway.
And we're hoping that we
That's
don't
what the
find any more.
$2, that's $2
Right.
per.
Right, and
And
that,
it's only $2 because we don't have to send somebody out special.
amen. Yep.
Okay.
And to your point about some
I'm done
confusion. I was gonna say.
That was a strong
To your
one.
point about some people might have been confused when they read it of
Yeah.
endpoints. I know somebody mentioned like we're charging for it's one endpoint per house.
Right, one endpoint that
I-
communicates, and it's through, eventually through cellular, and the quality of the data we're going to get is going to be vastly improved. I love the idea of a portal. I think people are going to really get into that, and the leak detection technology that you mentioned, I think people are really going to get excited about that. As somebody who had a leak this year that cost me $2,000, I can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, we will know earlier, they will know earlier, and we'll be able to get in front
And
of
for the
it.
record, I got no discount.
Right. Exactly.
I paid every penny of that.
Didn't even
for a
ask
leak.
us for one. To your point, you didn't even ask.
And I didn't, and thank you, and I didn't even ask for one.
Nope.
Yeah, looking back on this multi-prong, it's kind of a benefit in the end, but it creates a little bit of strife on our end. We probably should have hired somebody to come in and design an entire meter replacement program in the beginning of this, right? And paid a company to come in and do it. We didn't do that, because I'm young, we can handle
So
it.
you got this? Do it.
Handle it, we're going to do it, right? But the good thing is, now that we've got them on retainer, that's part of their job. So we're going to get it for free now, free, right? But we're going to get that service to design the program going forward, and that's going to help kind of drive this in a future sense.
Right, and well, how would you respond to somebody who says that moving to cellular endpoints may open them up to being tampered with or hacked, or, may deliver false readings?
No more so than any of it's fully encrypted end to end.
Okay.
So no more so than any encrypted data they may send already through their phones, such as credit card information or whatnot.
And nobody's gonna be able to hack in and turn off their meter or something like that?
Correct. No, that's, and this doesn't create the issues with radio waves that were so much a part of the smart meters of the last generation.
Right.
So, I don't know which way this technology is going to go, so once we get through this, it may be the next widget down the road that, creates efficiency and creates a better product out there. I'm almost certain something's going to change in the next 10 years, in this realm, so.
Right.
And I'll say, Noah, you got this. You don't need to hire anybody. And then the portal, we're going to try and link to the new app
Yeah,
that we're trying
that's
to create
phenomenal.
too.
I think that's
So
great.
it would be a direct link where they get, the pings, so you would have known right away instead of 3
That
months later.
would, yes.
Great.
Anybody else have any questions?
No, I'm ready to make a motion. Go ahead.
So, no, do we have a time frame on the contract?
Well, again, we're going to do it as a not to exceed this year, so.
Time frame.
Like a 5-year, you reassess and rebid?
You tell me what usage is going to be. It's really the usage and the progress we can make is going to dictate how long this takes.
So let's say we have an issue with the contractor. Can we walk away from the?
Oh, yeah, we can always, yes, always do that. I mean, really, it's pricing and increase guarantees over future years.
Okay.
Any quotes we authorize are going to be for the not-to-exceed amount. So we're not signing ourselves. We understand this is going to be a multi-year deal, but as we refine the program, each one of the rate asks is going to be based on the quote from the preceding year. So we won't, that will develop as we go. The hazard of keeping on switching is
I
3 or
understand.
4 meters in your inventory. You got to service all of those until you get them out. Like if you switch in the middle, that type of thing, you got to have multiple meter brands, which, those issues. So logistical issues.
And some comments were made regarding meter size, the number of fixtures in the home, based on, and I think I know the answer to this, but is there an ability to reduce the size of the meter at this point?
It depends. That's a question for a plumber. So we don't get into the number of fixtures, but the standard from the AWWA is based on meter size, a meter equivalency unit. The key to understand is when you go from a 1-inch to a 1.5-inch service, it doesn't just add by a factor of 50% how much water can pass through that pipe. And that's what the charge is based on. It's somewhere a factor of 3 point something. So it's not like if you go from a 1-inch to a 2-inch, it's not just double the water comes through. It's much greater than that in the volume. We don't get into fixtures in the home. That's a plumber and engineering thing when the home was built. They sized it based on their expertise, their engineering standards for the home, 3 floors, 17 bathrooms, whatever those factors were that made the engineer size it for a 1.5-inch. So someone has to assure the resident that they're not going to have a dry bathroom up top. So we recommend if they're in that category, they have a plumber look at their situation, determine whether it's feasible. There's some costs for the, connecting the actual different size of the meter, but we will give them the other meter as part of this replacement to mitigate that cost, if it's possible. Again, our warning is, make sure you talk to a plumber, because I don't want a toilet not functioning on the third floor or a shower just dribbling water. I mean, you start to get into those things.
And is that a residence, a licensed plumber has to attest that that meter will serve all the fixtures, or
We recommend they enlist a certified plumber for that, yeah.
is that required?
It wouldn't be required. I don't know, they do have to get a permit from building, so I think a registered plumber has to be on the plumbing permit, so through that way it would be required. And by that time, they've talked to us 4 or 5 times on the phone, and our mantra is to warn, yes, you can do this, we will help you do this, but we need the expert to tell us, because someone made an educated decision on why that was supposed to be in there.
When it was initially
Right,
installed?
and it's typically not like, oh, 1 inch is good, let's go 1.5. That's typically not how it works, right?
thank
There's
you.
some thought and calculations into it,
Appreciate that.
Because you're trying to be as minimal cost as possible to get the performance, right? That's what engineering's all about, so.
So regardless of the number of units that they're using on a current basis, it's really what could they be using and getting to the second or third floor in terms of pressure and the size of the fixtures and plumbing is how it's sized, correct?
Yep, I like to say it's dynamic, right? It's more than just, we can swap it out and mechanically it'll fit in that area, right? There's more to it than that, so. Especially here where we have widely varying households. But typically, they're bigger in the 1.5 inch category, so. But there are neighbors. Homes were built by different builders, built at different times, less bathrooms, more bathrooms. There are neighbors that are right next to each other, that one has a 1 inch meter and the other one would have a 1.5. That's definitely possible.
And again, I think I heard this correctly, but if people have 2 meters in their homes or more, there's one endpoint and there's one communicating, is that correct?
So they're,
An endpoint per meter, or
1 per meter, yeah. So those would be like our secondary meter
we have 2 endpoints?
customers.
then?
Yeah, they would need to send the data for both meters. They can't distinguish between the two.
More that, it almost sounded like she thought there was an endpoint at each fixture when she
Oh,
was
okay,
talking.
okay. Thank you for the background.
No problem.
And then knowing that people are all kind of probably thinking the same thing of it's the open-endedness, is there a possibility of doing this for a 5-year and then if it's good, rebidding it then, or?
Oh, yeah, once this program is done, we will get through this glut of the program, then we'll basically redesign for the future years and bid that out as a full package. We just can't tell you right now. We don't have the usage data, we don't have the history, and in fact, it's more comfortable for me to not pot commit to something 5 years out at this point. This will change and I want to walk you guys along through that process.
Okay.
So I'll be back to you, that's not going to mean that I'm not going to be back to you getting approval for that type of stuff, you know what I mean? But the low bidder is the low bidder at this point, so.
I just have one last question. You touched on, which I know is really important, and I was glad to get the clarification, that if somebody had a meter 5 years ago, or even 10 years ago, those aren't going to be replaced right away because they're still good.
Right, they're still,
So do you have any, just a guesstimate, I'm not going to hold you to it, but is it 40% of our meters are newer, or 40% of our meters are older, or?
so 52% of our meters are 15 years or older. That's approximately 10,000 meters. So the first year, with our budget amount, we're probably only going to be able to do 500 meters and then focus on the lead service lines that have to be done and the cellular endpoints. Then in years 2 to 5, we're going to aim for 2,000, 2,500 meters a year. That gives you an $800,000 budget within the account, and that'll be kind of flat, 2 to 5. And then the next 5-year cycle, we're going to look to flatten that out across that cycle.
Well, and by the time we get to the end of 5 years, those ones that were 10 to 15 years old are now
Right.
going to
Well,
come on the list.
And we'll plan that naturally. Again, I'd like to see this be a flattened, expense throughout the system, and it's easier to attack, like, let's say, 1,200 a year of our 18,000, split it up by the, it's easier to attack and get success on a smaller sample group, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I guess I just want to say one more thing. So, because I have, and this might not be exactly related to this program, but it's at least tangentially related, so that's why I want to bring it up now. There has been feedback with regard to, is there really equity if it's not, for doing it, okay, what you can potentially get through your pipes versus what you're actually getting through your pipes. So if we did want to move more towards usage-based and away from the meter equivalent, then this is going to help us to get there.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Getting that more robust usage data will allow us to kind of determine patterns that allow us to set, instead of it being more based on something that is finite, a pipe coming in, it would be based on tiers, like when you're DTE, if you're over 200 kilowatts, you start getting charged a higher rate. That's where the equity will come in, right? But we need that usage data to set where those levels are. And there's still going to be winners and losers, but it will be shaded even more so towards the high usage pays higher. So this was like a first step, and right, because, in the past, it was everybody pays the same. So the MEU structure was a big change in the rate environment, and tried to bring that equity. The usage-based data will bring that equity even more, so.
That's where this actually came from, was all of the discussions that we had about tiered and usage, was we didn't have the infrastructure, so that's why Noah was tasked to doing this on his own and not finding a consultant.
Well, and it's important to note, all the other
came
utilities
from
have a
those
ready to
discussions.
serve in there as well, in addition to the usage fee. So it's, they may call it distribution or power supply recovery. That's giving them the raw materials that they need to serve you, right? And that's ready to serve, so.
Anybody else have any questions?
Ready to make the motion? And I really like the program because it incorporates a lot of what the board has discussed in the past year. And as far as what our goals and objectives are, whether it's monthly billing, which we had a lot of discussion on, trying to detect leaks, which is certainly important, having the ability to establish a water portal, for the water rates, having flexibility, be able to grow and build depending on technology, or if we change our just our way of wanting to look at water rates. So this gives us a lot of flexibility in that regard, and I think it's
We're listening.
I can tell. Thank you very much, and I make the motion.
Motion by trustee Barnett,
Support.
support by trustee Faki. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. And
Thank you very
for
much.
your work on that.
Have a
I
good evening.
appreciate it.